Technology Solutions coming to you live today, Friday, June 23rd. I look at the calendar at 4 p.m. How is everyone doing today? So, in my world, the last few weeks have been dominated in the news of cybersecurity by the MoveIT breach. MoveIT, for those of you who don't know, is a popular software solution that allows you to move files securely from one point to another across the internet, whether that's through a server in the cloud, a website, etc. Uh, TLDR, or too long didn't read. A bunch of hackers are exploiting MoveIt right now. Ransomware gang, which is probably my most fan of all the cyber criminal weird names that we get out there. This one's probably my favorite. The Clop, CLOP ransomware gang, has begun ransoming and extorting companies, businesses, and government organizations and governments en masse. Clop is currently slowly, and I'm going to go ahead and share this article I'm looking at with you. This is from one of my favorite websites, bleepingcomputer.com. Slowly sharing names of people who it has hacked and stolen information from in an attempt to shame the remaining companies that have been infected to pay up. Basically, Clop is extorting a ton of companies right now, and the ones that are moving slowly, it's slowly starting to burn business names by telling them, hey, going public saying, we stole this company's information, including people's full names, their day of birth, their social security numbers, their zip codes, policy numbers in some cases, ID agents, et cetera, et cetera. A bunch of information that businesses do not want getting out into the wild for a lot of reasons. And this is all about blackmail and money. The most recent business that was named and shamed by Clop was Genworth Financial. It's a Virginia-based life insurance provider. And they are dumping everything, saying, look at all we took from Genworth. Last week, they were ransoming the Department of Energy. This goes on and on. There were some security professionals, I won't go as far as to saying they were espousing or evangelizing, but they were starting to indicate that maybe ransomware was starting to slow down. Maybe ransomware wasn't the biggest problem anymore. Maybe it was going the way of the dodo bird. That has absolutely not been the case, as this week has shown. Ransomware, I believe, is at record high numbers. It declined a little bit in April based on the initial statistics I've seen recently, but it's still at record high numbers and it is still a very profitable endeavor for cyber criminals. For those of you who are hearing this term ransomware for the first time, again, I love that term. Too long didn't read. TLDR. Ransomware is when someone takes all your files. They take a copy of them first and upload them to their cloud server, so they have a copy of everything. They encrypt your files and your computers so you can't read them. You can't use them. They're basically a brick. The files cannot be recovered because of how encryption works. Even if you paid for someone like me to come out and look at stuff, you can't get the stuff back because unless you have a good backup, it's gone. They have full access. And the only way that they're going to give you back those files, because again, this is ransom, right? What are they holding for ransom? They're holding your files. Well, there's a key in cryptography and ransomware that'll usually unlock your files. And you have to pay them to A, give you the key, but also B, not to do exactly what Clop is doing right now, where they name and shame you on the internet and blackmail you. Of course, these are a bunch of criminals, honor among thieves, et cetera, et cetera. Totally worth listening to. But right now, Clop is going for broke. They've ransomwared several government agencies. The Department of Energy, as I mentioned before, was ransomwared last week. I believe the government of Nova Scotia is also on that list. They are going hard. The agency, so Genworth, did have to make a public disclosure due to this. Let me see. Yeah, the firm estimates the breach impacted between 2.5 and 2.7 million individuals. This is Genworth Financial, a Virginia-based life insurance service provider, of which they are either customers or people working for them as employees, aka agents. Yeah, they're going to be sending out a bunch of notices. This is going to cost probably somewhere the 7-8 figure range. Easily. I've done breach remediation. If this is May records as we think they are, you're looking at a 7-figure bill minimum. So this is not a good time to be Genworth. The other firm that was impacted was another insurance provider called is Wilson Reassurance, a New York-based insurance provider, which reports that over 1.4 million of its customers had data stolen. So life insurance providers are not having a good time this week. This can happen to anybody. This is not a fun thing. My take on this is the world we live in now. I actually wrote a book a while back called How to Protect Your Small Business from Hackers. And that's really the world we have to look at. No matter who you are or what you do, you can be impacted by no fault of your own, right? Like, just so you guys know, this ransomware attack, it was MoveIT, right? This very popular file moving protocol that was breached. And the only sin that these companies had right here, at least on the surface, so far with the information available to us, is they used MoveIT. That was it. That's all it took. And now they're being breached and they're going to have to pay money and lawyers. It's a whole mess. So what do you do about it, right? What do you do about this? Well, you got to start mitigating your risk. The analogy I like to tell people when they ask me, what the heck am I supposed to do about this, right, is if you ever watch naval documentaries, you know that naval destroyers, these huge battleships, their hulls, right, the part that sits in the ocean, is not just this big open space. It's compartmentalized into different sections. In theory, a torpedo can hit it and the ship's not going to go down because it's compartmentalized and reinforced in the right ways. From a risk perspective, businesses need to take that same approach. They need to compartmentalize the cyber risk of their business into different sections so that when they get hit, only a certain portion of their business is going to be impacted and the fallout is controlled. That's the world we're moving into, as sad as it is to say. So what can you do, right? What can you do? First and foremost, with ransomware, backups become critical. Go ahead and invest yourself in a good backup. And backups have to be tested. Untested backups are just wishful thinking. I know a YouTuber, that's not credit to me, Lawrence from Lawrence Systems, you get credit on that one. But backups have to be tested. They have to be reliable. I had a customer a long time ago that paid for a backup service that he paid the very minimum he had to pay to get a backup service, like some really cruddy one from no one ever heard of. And lo and behold, the backups didn't work and he got ransomware, right? Like they just didn't work. That sucked because not only was he ransomware, he also paid for the backups for like 4 years. Kind of stinks. So make sure you do backups. Another thing you should do against cyber intrusion, it probably wouldn't have helped in this specific instance, but it is generally good practice, is enable multi-factor authentication wherever possible. You need to enable multi-factor authentication and make sure that it is set up on all your critical accounts. That's your email. That's your computer login. If you have cloud sharing services, go ahead and try to put it on there as well. But enable multi-factor wherever possible. Multi-factor authentication is the most low-hanging fruit version. If you ever log into your bank, they text you a code. I prefer the ones minimum where you put the apps on your phone that generate codes every 30 seconds. And when you log into a service, you've got to open the app up and copy and paste the code. But there's a whole bunch of different kinds of them. If you want to learn more, we are actually offering free cybersecurity strategy sessions to small business owners and nonprofits. You can go to the link in below and our description and reserve your free 15-minute cyber strategy session. As always, thank you guys so much for your time. I appreciate it. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. Stay safe out there.